Evaluation question 1. In what ways do your media products use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? Well, to begin with, my trailer, I will be focusing on the micro elements of film trailers, beginning with sound and then moving on to cinematography, mise-en-scène, and editing. And then I will talk a little bit about the poster and the film cover. Anyway, first things first. Sound is a very important thing. Horror movie trailers follow a very distinct pattern, with some choosing to stray from the path, but ultimately leading back to the same one. Some trailers use creepy children singing nursery rhymes, others use very loud and brash sounds to frighten the watcher, and some, well, I say some, quite a lot, use discordant soundtracks, which can be said for my trailer. One of the main trailers I analysed was the Conjuring trailer, which was released in 2012, I think it was. It strays from the path at the beginning because it begins with a upbeat soundtrack, and it suddenly cuts off about midway through the trailer, and it becomes a low discordant growl. Although my trailer does not begin with this upbeat tone, it does use the current convention to its advantage by taking the discordant tone and putting the entire focus on it throughout the trailer. Some trailers like to have a change in soundtrack, but I've put the entire focus on this soundtrack and it works very well, and it develops the discordant soundtrack convention. The second half of sound is the sound effects, and only a few were added in mine. They were for necessary reasons, further using the forms and conventions. When footage is seen of the antagonists using a baseball bat, I needed to add the sound effects, because obviously I could not allow people to be hit to get the actual sound effect, because that would have been stupid and violent. So I added the effect of a swing during the swinging motion, and the hitting sound effects when the other person is supposedly hit. This was necessary so it made the action seem a little bit more realistic, as without it they seemed a bit lifeless and silly, and would not have worked for a horror trailer. Moving on to cinematography, like all good trailers, not only horror trailers, I needed to include a range of shots, and the ones I got were very useful to my trailer. I got establishing extreme long shots, close-ups, tracking shots, panning shots, crane shots, etc, etc, etc. But each one contributed to the feeling of the trailer and gave it a certain sense of professionalism, let's say. However, some of them required carrying a bloody camera up the steep hill multiple times just to get the establishing long shot in Edinburgh. Anyway, so doing this, some horror films do not include establishing shots, mainly action shots to introduce the terror that surrounds them, such as the Paranormal Activity 1 trailer, where there's a few views of the house, but that's about it. I tried to develop it in my trailer. I almost tried to cast the city itself as a cast member, because at night, Edinburgh, which is where I shot it, can be a very dark and frightening place, very well suited to the horror genre, as it has a lot of alleyways that anyone can jump out from and attack from. As seen in one of my shots, the CCTV shot in my trailer, it shows a hoodie beating up one of his victims. Overall, the range of shots did not seem difficult to acquire, and the fact that it ended up challenging some of the forms and conventions was pretty useful, seeing as it wasn't that difficult. Thirdly, editing. The editing pace of horror trailers vary, so they can both be quick, so it would build up the fear by changing from shot to shot to shot in a very short amount of time, and they would use this to build up fear, whilst others use a slow editing pace alongside discordant soundtrack, in order to create tension and get fear that way, which is the way I used in my trailer. It's similar to the Conjuring trailer, which begins with a reasonably fast pace, but overall it's very, very slow towards the end to build up that pace. So the Conjuring trailer was very useful when I was building up my ideas. So lastly, the mise-en-scène. This was very simple to choose from because the guidelines that had been put in place by the college meant there could be no guns or knives, so I had to choose another weapon of choice that would still have the violent guise that would be used by an anarchist. The baseball bat, which is seen in the trailer, didn't infringe on the rules, so you were allowed to see it in the trailer and it would not be banned, I suppose. So it maintained the violent guise of the hoodie. And speaking of hoodies, that would be the main item in the entire trailer, used to conceal the antagonist's identity, and it is used to say to the watcher, why is he wearing it? What is he doing to have to wear that? Most people know that hoodies are normally associated with, so to speak, chavs in England, or Neds in the UK, which is another colloquialism for the name, or stuff like that. Moving on to the ancillary products, which is the poster and the front cover, they both use the conventions, the forms and conventions of the print world. Beginning with the front cover, which was modelled off Hellboy 2's cover, Empire's Hellboy 2 cover in November of 2009. My front cover includes all the usual aspects: the masthead at the top, the main cell line taking up most of the text space, the main image covering the entire page, which all the text would be overlaid on except for the masthead, which was mainly seen across the top, but some of the image itself was cutting off a little bit, so it would be hidden slightly behind it. Then there would be the cell lines off to the side, the skyline just above the masthead, which the Hellboy 2 cover did not contain for some reason. So, in that aspect, it would be challenging the forms and conventions. And then finally, it would also have the barcode, which is imperative to any front cover as it is something to be sold. The second product, which was much easier to edit and as it contained less, was the poster, which consisted of a black background, a close-up of the person holding it, holding a baseball bat, and the title is tagline, and finally the billing block. The billing block is something where I would put the names of the cast and the crew or something like that, and then that would be the official bit from the production company. However, similar to Hellboy 2, the poster I modelled it off, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D, did not contain a billing block, which most posters today do actually contain. So it was quite odd to see that it did not contain anything like this. So to conclude, my products mainly use the current forms and conventions for media products, but in certain aspects it has challenged and developed some, which is quite useful to see that they've used it in a very effective way. Sorry, I've used it in a very effective way. It's my product. But overall, it doesn't deduct from the quality of the product, hopefully, and it maintains the horror forms and conventions and puts them in high standard. It's evaluation question 1.